The most disciplined person you know is not fighting harder battles than you. They're fighting fewer. While you spend every morning redeciding whether to get up, whether to work out, whether to open the laptop, they decided once, months ago, and they haven't voted on it since. That's the whole secret, and almost nobody tells you, because it doesn't sound impressive. It sounds boring. But sit with it for a moment, because if you've ever started over, a gym routine, a savings plan, a project you swore was different this time, and ended up back where you began, quietly wondering if something is wrong with you, then I want to tell you something before we go any further. Nothing is wrong with you. You've been running a strategy that fails for almost everyone who tries it. You've been waiting to feel like it. And tonight, over the next half hour, I want to take that strategy apart, piece by piece, and show you what the consistent people are actually doing instead. Not because they're stronger, because they stopped relying on a feeling and started building something that doesn't care how they feel. Let's begin with the feeling itself. Motivation. Motivation is weather. That's all it is. Some mornings it rolls in warm and bright, and you feel like you could rebuild your whole life before lunch. Other mornings it's gone, and no amount of inspirational noise brings it back, because it was never responding to inspiration in the first place. It was responding to how you slept, to what you ate, to a message you got last night, a headline you skimmed, the angle of the light in the room. Motivation is an emotional state, and emotional states are unstable by design. They're supposed to move. That's their job. So when you build your life on motivation, you are building a house on weather. And then, when the house keeps falling down, you blame the builder. You say, I have no willpower, I can't stick to anything. But the builder was never the problem. The foundation was. Imagine a farmer who only waters his crops on the days he feels inspired by agriculture. Picture him standing at the edge of his field, checking in with himself. Do I feel connected to farming today? Some weeks, yes. Some weeks, not so much. You already know how this ends. The crops don't care about his inner life. They need water on a schedule, and the schedule doesn't negotiate. Now picture two people who both want to run. Same desire, same starting fitness, same busy life. The first one wakes up each morning and asks herself a question. Do I feel like running today? Sometimes the answer is yes. Often it's no, or not yet, or maybe this evening. She runs 8 days a month, and every one of those days comes wrapped in an exhausting internal debate. The second woman runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at 7 in the morning, whether she feels like it or not. She runs 13 days a month with zero debate, because there's nothing to debate. One of them made running a question, the other made it a fact. That's the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is the weather. Discipline is the climate, the stable conditions you build once and then live inside. And here's the part worth carrying with you. You don't control the weather. You never will. But the climate of your own life is yours to set. So look at your routines tonight and ask which ones are still questions. The things you redecide every single day. Pick one, just one. Give it a fixed time and a fixed place, and take away its vote. Decide once. Because every one of those daily votes is costing you more than you think. There's a hidden tax on deciding, and you've been paying it your entire adult life without ever seeing the bill. Researchers have a name for part of this: decision fatigue. The psychologist Roy Baumeister spent years studying how acts of self-control and choice seem to draw on a limited pool of mental energy. Now, honest footnote, later research suggests the effect is real, but smaller than the pop science version claimed. Your willpower isn't a battery that dies at noon, but you don't need a lab to confirm the basic truth, because you've lived it. Resisting something, debating something, re-choosing something. It costs you. Every negotiation with yourself burns fuel before you've produced a single thing. Let me walk you through a Tuesday. Maybe you'll recognize it. The alarm goes off at 6:30, first negotiation, snooze or rise. You argue with yourself in the dark for 9 minutes and you lose. Second alarm, second negotiation. You're up at 6:58, already slightly defeated. Breakfast? What do you even want? You stand at the fridge running options. Is today a gym day? You meant it to be, but you're tired now, and the debate opens like a courtroom. Evidence for, evidence against, witnesses called. Verdict postponed until lunch. At the desk by 9, and the next hearing begins. Start the report, or clear the inbox first. The inbox feels productive, so the inbox wins, the way it always wins. By 11 in the morning, you are 14 negotiations deep. You've made no progress on anything that matters, and you're tired, genuinely tired, even though, on paper, you've done nothing. That's the tax. The undisciplined life is not the lazy life. It is the exhausting one. It just spends its energy in a currency that doesn't show up anywhere. Now run the same Tuesday again, same person, one change. The night before, the first 5 moves of the morning were decided. Alarm rings, feet on the floor, not because of heroic willpower, but because snoozing was never on the ballot. Breakfast is the same thing it always is on a Tuesday. The gym question doesn't exist. Tuesday is a gym day the way Tuesday is a Tuesday. At the desk, the first 90 minutes belong to the report, a decision made yesterday by a calmer version of you. By 11, this person has spent almost no willpower at all, and the report is half done. Same human being, same world. The only difference is when the deciding happened. So here's the practice, and it's gentler than it sounds. Tonight before bed, decide the first 90 minutes of tomorrow. Not a rigid schedule, a script. What you'll do when the alarm rings, what you'll eat, what you'll touch first. You're not adding discipline to your morning. You're removing negotiations from it. The morning version of you is the weakest negotiator you'll meet all day. Stop sending them to the table. I know what part of you is saying right now, because part of everyone says it. This sounds like a cage. Fixed times, fixed scripts, no votes. Where's the freedom in that? It's a fair question, and it deserves a real answer, because the answer is the heart of everything. The Stoics understood something we keep forgetting. The constraints you choose are the only reliable protection from the constraints you don't. There is no unconstrained life on offer. There never was. The only choice you actually get is which constraints and who picks them. 2 musicians. The first one plays free. She practices only when inspiration visits, only what feels good in the moment, because rules would kill the magic. That's what she tells herself. 10 years pass, and here's the quiet tragedy. She can only play what she already knows. Her hands fall into the same patterns, the same comfortable keys. Her freedom, exercised daily, shrank to the size of her existing habits. The second musician did the most rigid thing imaginable, scales, every day, for years. From the outside it looked like a cage, the same drills, the same metronome, while her friend was out playing whatever she felt. But 10 years later, this one can sit down and improvise anything she hears, any key, any style, any room. Her constraint compounded into range. The cage was a chrysalis the whole time. Now run the same pattern through money because it works everywhere. The person who freely spends every paycheck, every dinner out, every impulse, no rules, feels free at 25 and arrives at 45 with no choices left. Can't leave the job they hate, can't take the year off, can't say no to anything because the math says yes for them. Meanwhile, the person who automated a savings rate, the most boring constraint in the world, arrives at 45 holding all the options. Debt is a cage. Deadline panic is a cage. The body you didn't maintain, the skills you never built, cages everyone, and you don't get to pick their dimensions. Discipline is simply paying for your freedom in installments instead of losing it all at once in a lump sum you never agreed to. So take one obligation you currently resent, The saving, the training, the practicing, and reframe it tonight as a purchase. Name the specific freedom it's buying. Not vaguely, specifically. This deposit buys me the right to walk away from a bad job in 5 years. This workout buys me a body that says yes when I'm 60. Write it down somewhere you'll see it. You're not serving the constraint. The constraint is serving you. But, and this matters, none of it works if the constraint is built for someone who doesn't exist. This is where discipline actually fails for most people, and it isn't where you think. It doesn't fail from weakness. It fails from ambition. The plan demands a version of you that only shows up on your best days, and then the first ordinary bad day arrives, and the whole structure comes down. A man decides to write a book. He commits to 1,000 words a day, because that's what serious writers do, and he is finally going to be serious. Day 1, 1,200 words. He's triumphant. Day 2, 1,000 on the nose. Day 3, 900 close enough. Day 4, his kid is sick. Work explodes. He gets to 10 p.m. with nothing in the tank and writes 0. And now, watch what happens, because this is the moment that kills more dreams than laziness ever has. The streak is dead, and the story he tells himself isn't "I had a hard day." It's "I failed again. This is what I do." Within 2 weeks, the document is something he avoids looking at, like a debt. Now restart the scene with one change. Same man, same book, different rule. 1 sentence per day. No exceptions and no extra credit. 1 sentence. On terrible days, he opens the laptop at 11 at night and types one bitter, graceless sentence in 40 seconds and closes it. It feels almost like a joke. But here's the mechanism hiding inside the joke. He never breaks the chain, which means he never has to face the cold start cost of being someone who quit. He never has to climb back over the wall of his own failure story, because the story never gets written. And on ordinary days, this is the quiet magic. Having already opened the document, having already paid the entry fee, he usually just keeps going. 500 words appear that were never required. The 1 sentence rule was never the work. It was the ignition system. The behavioral scientists have mapped this well. B.J. Fogg's research on tiny habits, Peter Gollwitz's work on implementation intentions, and it all points the same direction. Consistency comes from flaws so low that your worst self can clear them. Because identity isn't built on volume, it's built on showing up. So take your most important habit and define its never zero flaw. 2 minutes or less, 1 sentence, 1 push-up, 1 line of the budget, and then judge yourself on exactly one thing. Did you clear the flaw? Never on volume. Volume is weather too. There's one more lie to clear away before the tools really start working. The lie that disciplined people are good at resisting temptation. They're not. That's the strange, liberating finding from research like Wilhelm Hoffmann's, where people carried devices that pinged them throughout the day, asking what they were desiring and resisting right now. The people with the highest self-control scores reported resisting less than everyone else. Read that again. The disciplined weren't winning more battles. They had arranged their lives to contain fewer battlefields. Willpower is for emergencies. Environment is for every day. Let me show you what that looks like, because it's almost embarrassingly physical. Picture an apartment. The phone charges on the nightstand, 6 inches from a sleeping head, which means the first hour of every morning is already spoken for before her eyes fully open. The running shoes are in the closet, behind the vacuum, a small archaeology project, every time. The snacks live at eye level in the kitchen, in clear packaging that does its glittering work every time the cupboard opens. The remote sits on the arm of the couch, exactly where a tired hand falls. Nothing in this apartment is evil, but every single default points the wrong way, and she lives here, wondering why she has no discipline. Now give her 30 minutes and no self-improvement at all, just furniture. The phone now charges in the kitchen. A cheap alarm clock sits by the bed. The running shoes and tomorrow's clothes are laid out where she'd practically trip over them leaving the bedroom. The snacks move to the highest shelf, into opaque containers, still there, just no longer performing. A book sits where the remote used to be. The remote lives in a drawer. Her character did not change. Her values did not change. Her behavior changed within a week, because every default now points the right way, and defaults win most days, for all of us. Call it voting with furniture. Every object in your home is casting a ballot, every day, about who you're going to be. Most people never check how their stuff is voting. So tonight, do this one small thing. For one habit, make the wrong choice 20 seconds harder, and the right choice 20 seconds easier. Move one object in each direction. That's it. 20 seconds doesn't sound like much, but you are not as far from your better self as you think. Usually you're about 2 moved objects away, and as the behavior starts to shift, something deeper starts to shift underneath it. And this is the part I most want you to hear, especially if you've quit things before. We assume belief drives behavior. Believe in yourself first, then act. But the psychologist Darrell Bem found evidence that the arrow often runs the other way. We watch our own actions, like an outside observer would, and we update our beliefs about who we are based on what we see ourselves do. You are constantly running a trial about whether you can be trusted, and your behavior is the evidence. Picture it as a courtroom, because that's how it feels from the inside. There's a prosecutor in your head, and every time you flake on yourself, every abandoned routine, every quiet surrender, he files it away. And the next time you stand at the edge of a commitment, he rises and says, "See, this is who you are. We have the records." That prosecutor is why starting feels heavier every time you've quit. It's not the task that got harder, it's the trial. But evidence works both ways. A woman who has broken every January resolution she ever made, every diet, every gym pass, every journal abandoned by February, starts keeping one promise so small it's almost insulting. She makes her bed. Every morning, 60 days, no exceptions. Objectively, it's trivial. A made bed changes nothing about her career, her health, her bank account. But somewhere around week 5, she notices something she can't quite name at first. She's considering a bigger commitment, a course, a routine, and the old objection rises on schedule. You never follow through. Except this time, it doesn't land. It doesn't land because there's counter-evidence now. 60 mornings of it entered into the record. The bed was never about the bed. It was about retraining the witness. So here's the practice. Keep one small promise to yourself, daily, for 30 days. And when you keep it, this part feels silly. Do it anyway. Say the identity out loud. I'm someone who does what I said. You're not hyping yourself up. You're filing evidence. Decide once what the promise is, and then let 30 days of testimony do what no amount of self-belief ever could. Of course, you're going to miss a day. Let's not pretend otherwise. Let's plan for it instead, because how you handle the miss is the entire game. Perfectionism is discipline's quiet saboteur. The all-or-nothing mind treats a single miss as a verdict, and then uses that verdict to justify total collapse. Researchers studying dieters, Janet Polivy and Peter Herman, even named the pattern the what the hell effect. One broken rule, and the mind says, well, the day's ruined anyway, what the hell? And a single cookie becomes the whole box. One skipped session becomes a lost month. Watch 2 people meet the identical event. Both miss a Wednesday workout because work exploded. Genuinely, unavoidably exploded. No moral failure anywhere in sight. The first one spirals. The week is ruined, he tells himself, so he skips Thursday too, and Friday, planning to restart fresh on Monday. And that restart, when it comes, costs him more willpower than the entire routine ever did. because now he's pushing the boulder from the bottom of the hill again, with the prosecutor reading from his file. The second person has one rule, and only one: never miss twice. So Thursday's session happens. Maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's barely worthy of the name. It isn't punishment, and it isn't catching up. It's a signal flare, sent from her to herself. The system is still on. Here's what makes this more than a nice idea. Over a full year, those two people miss roughly the same number of days, because life's chaos doesn't discriminate. But the first one misses them in week-long collapses, and the second misses them in scattered single days, and only one of them still has the habit in December. The disciplined are not unbroken. Nobody is unbroken. The disciplined are fast at repair. Missing once is data. Missing twice is a decision. Let that one sit for a second. So drop every streak rule you've ever had and keep only this one: never miss twice. And pre-plan the repair. Decide now, while you're calm, what the 10-minute version looks like, the one you'll do the day after any miss, no matter what. Falling was never the failure. Staying down was. Which brings us, finally, to the choice underneath all of this. And I want to slow down here, because this is the part people resist hearing, even though some part of you has always known it. There is no easy path. There is no version of your life without difficulty in it. Discipline is hard. Getting up is hard. The floor-clearing days are hard. The never-miss-twice days are hardest of all. But avoidance is hard too. It's just hard later, with interest. Easy now becomes hard later. Hard now becomes easy later. You were never choosing between difficulty and comfort. You were only ever choosing which difficulty and when the bill arrives. So let me put you in a quiet room for a moment. In this room are two versions of you, 5 years from tonight. And I'm not going to make this dramatic, because the truth is scarier when it's ordinary. The first version isn't ruined. Nothing terrible happened to them. They're just the same. Same job tier, more or less. Same January restarts. Same drawer of abandoned plans. Same sentence, "I really should." Worn so smooth from use that it doesn't even sting anymore. They're fine. That's the word they use. And the way they say it tells you everything. The second version isn't superhuman. They didn't become someone else. They just kept 3 small systems running. A training floor they never let hit 0. A savings rate they automated and stopped touching. A daily block of focused work on the thing that was theirs. That's it. From across the room they don't even look that different. But their options are different. Their body is different. The way they speak about the future is different. They speak about it like someone who has plans, not apologies. And here's what I need you to understand about the space between those two people. It was never one big decision. There's no dramatic moment where their paths split. No crossroads with lightning overhead. The gap between them is about 1,800 ordinary mornings, 1,800 unremarkable, forgettable mornings, where one of them had simply stopped asking how they felt about it. 1,800 mornings, and the first one is tomorrow. So choose your hard tonight. Not 5 things, 1. Pick the single system from this half hour that you'll install first. Maybe it's the pre-decided morning, the never zero floor, the moved objects, the small kept promise, never miss twice. 1 system. Schedule its first repetition for tomorrow morning, an exact time, an exact place, and then let that be the last decision you make about it. Decide once. Tomorrow you don't vote. You just show up and clear the floor. Because here's the resolution of the paradox we started with, the one hiding in the title itself. You were never going to be freed by fewer rules. You're freed by the right ones, chosen by you, sized to your real life, so automatic they give your willpower the day off. The version of you that feels free was never the one with the empty calendar and the open options and the endless deliberation. It's the one with nothing left to negotiate. The one who walks past the old battlefields and doesn't even slow down, because those wars ended a long time ago, with a single quiet decision that never needed to be made again. Motivation will come and go for the rest of your life. Let it. Enjoy it when it visits, like good weather. Just don't build on it. Build on the thing that's there at 6 in the morning when the weather isn't. The structure, the floor, the promise, the repair. That's not a cage. That's the architecture of a free life. And you can start building it with one sentence, one moved object, one made bed. If something in this reframed the way you see your own inconsistency, the next audiobook in this series goes deeper into building these systems piece by piece for your money, your body, and your work. Subscribe so it finds you when it's ready, but that's for later. For tonight, there's only one thing left to do, and it's small. Choose the one promise you'll keep tomorrow. Make it almost embarrassingly small. And then, this is the last thing I'll ask of you. Stop deciding. You've already decided. Sleep well. The first of your 1800 mornings is waiting, and for once, there's nothing to negotiate when you get there.